Today we face the monsters that are at our door and bring the fight to them. Today we are canceling the apocalypse. One of the absolute best movie speeches of all time, easily rivals the one from Independence Day. I gotta say, I listen to that clip. Actually, I watch that clip every time it's around finals week.
Absolutely. It's true. I can confirm that. He reposts it.
Yeah. Alright, so hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews, an episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews. This is Tyler from End Credit Reviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
Yes, and this is our review on the movie Pacific Rim. Now, I did review the movie Pacific Rim when it came out about 5 years ago, so if you want to see that one, maybe I'll put the link in the description below. But anyway, it's been many years since it came out. I know it's, 5 years isn't that many if you think about it. But
It's crazy
I think
it's been that many.
Yeah, but I think enough time has gone by to give more of a thorough review of the movie. Alright, so Pacific Rim is a giant monster movie from 2013. Now, what kind of stands about this movie to me, for one, is the writer of this movie, well, one of the writers, and also Guillermo del Toro, of course, did a lot with it, was Travis Beckham, or Beecham?
Beckham, I think?
Something like that. Now, what's weird is that this guy, guess what movie he wrote before this?
What's that?
Clash of the Titans with Sam Worthington.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, talking about going from something that I hate to something that I love.
Yeah.
So I'm really conflicted about this guy, I've got to say, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, really redeemed himself, I gotta say, with this one. And the movie, of course, is directed by Guillermo del Toro, who at the time was best known for directing movies like
Pan's
the first.
Labyrinth.
Well, besides that,
Hellboy.
and the Hellboy movies, and
Yep.
also most recently won Best Director and Best Picture for The Shape of Water.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Shape of Water or Pan's Labyrinth yet. I do want to get around to watching them sometime.
I have seen both, and Pan's Labyrinth is definitely worth it. Shape of Water is a little overhyped. I will say that much, but it's they're both worth seeing at some point. And Pan's Labyrinth to me is still overall his definitive work. When you say Del Toro, I think Pan's Labyrinth. But that's not to undercut this one in any way, and we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say so far of what I've seen, this is probably my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie. I mean, I'll get around to watching the remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon sometime.
Exactly. Yeah, I was trying to think of other names for it, like Lovin' with Gilbert, the Fish Man, and My Escape with the Seaman.
Next thing that the media wants to force people to accept. Alright, so anyway, we're trying to get back on track in that. So Pacific Rim is about pretty much these giant kaijus, aka giant monsters, come from underneath a crack in the sea where they start attacking cities in the Pacific coastline, and pretty much they notice that it keeps happening again and again, so they pretty much initiate the Jaeger program. Now the Jaeger program creates
Jaeger.
these... Sorry, Jaeger, sorry. It's a J, okay?
Yeah, I know.
When I read something like that, I feel like it should be J in a way. And just like silent letters, kind of like how Phoenix is spelled with a P.
All people from Phoenix are called Phoenicians.
Or Wakandans.
Yeah.
Or jokingly called...
Wakanda, Illinois, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, people are joking like, are they technically would be called wankers?
Oh, no!
Alright, so anyway, so the Jaeger program is created where two pilots pretty much pilot a Jaeger to fight another Jaeger. Now, of course, things start to get not so good throughout the years, where we see this one Jaeger pilot, played by Charlie Hunnam, loses his brother, and he's pretty much a drifter. He's working as a construction worker. And then a very powerful man, played by Idris Elba, recruits him back into the Jaeger program, back to Hong Kong, and he tries to find someone who is also kind of drift compatible with him, and thus he finds in this woman played by Rinko Kikuchi, or something like that. You know that weird woman from Babel.
Rinko Kikuchi, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, the woman that got naked in Babel.
Oh my, oh lordy lord.
Yeah, so pretty much throughout the movie, they're fighting the Jaegers and also try to create a pretty much a plan to defeat the Jaegers themselves. Now it's not just American Jaeger that's fighting, which is Gypsy Danger.
Mhm.
We also have other countries, such as from Australia, we have Striker Eureka. From Russia, we have Cherno Alpha. And from Russia, I mean, not, I already said Russia. And from China, we have Crimson Typhoon.
That's right.
And briefly from like Japan, we had Coyote Tango,
Hmm.
briefly. But yeah, so what did you think of the movie Pacific Rim, Steven?
Well, wow, we're just going right into it. I really like this. This is a fun film. It's definitely one of my favorites of Del Toro overall. I do have a few minor gripes overall with it that drag it down from a perfect score.
We'll get to that.
But yeah, it's overall just a absolute fun robots bashing monsters fun house that is um, uh, great fun for everyone and is definitely worth seeing. I'm curious how in the next one they're going to handle it, um, juggling that with Jaegers fighting other Jaegers, and if it will be as coherent without Del Toro directing it. But this one, especially for an establishing film, was perfect, and Del Toro's touch on balancing the robots with the monsters was very effective, I think.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Guillermo del Toro, this movie meant a lot to him because he kind of could relate to Charlie Hunnam's character because, kind of like Charlie Hunnam, this was the first movie he directed in many years. The
Mhm.
last one was Hellboy the Golden Army, and he was originally supposed to work on another movie, which I think was Mountains of Madness or something like that.
Oh yeah, by Lovecraft. And for a while, I mean, there was talks of him doing The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so he really could relate to Charlie Hunnam's character when trying to come to that. And I thought that was pretty cool. But also about this movie, if you think about it, it's a movie that is an original film. It's an expensive movie, mainstream Hollywood movie,
mhm.
which is an extreme rarity nowadays if you think about it.
True.
But also, the thing about it is that what makes Pacific Rim such an awesome movie and also pretty much one of the best giant monster movies ever
Mhm.
is that it's pretty much like a giant monster movie, except what if they decided to develop the characters a lot more and try to polish out the story a bit more and also give an A-list budget to this movie?
Yeah, I overall agree with that. Because even in most Godzilla movies, even the Japanese ones, which a lot of hardcore Godzilla fans will defend to death, even that dialogue can get a little cringy in terms of what they say and character development.
Yeah,
So
true. It's kind of like a trope in certain ways.
it's clear they're getting a lot of influence from Godzilla and other giant monster films and incorporating that in a new way, which was great. And also, I mean, let's be real, up to several years before that, things like Transformers, Iron Man, and other knockoffs of both of those things were kind of glamorizing robots. So having robots go up against monsters, which prior to that, I guess the exception being Cloverfield, the giant monster movies were kind of out of the public eye or not seen as that
Ex-
cool.
well, except for, the King Kong remake by Peter Jackson.
Yeah, but that was even like 2005, so it's getting up there at this point in terms of way back. There wasn't great representation since that in Cloverfield, but in any case, with this movie, it kind of brought using the cool robots against these towering um, alien monsters, a fantastic dynamic that hadn't been seen on screen before with that budget, as Tyler said.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that during the making of the film, Guillermo del Toro told his staff to not try to look at other giant monster movies or other kind of mech or giant robot movies
Mhm.
because he wanted to make this not an homage movie, but he wanted it to be more of its original kind of film with its own design.
Mhm.
And also, if you think about it, the giant monsters, the kaiju in this movie, are actually a lot more original and unique in their design than other American giant monster movies in recent years.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of them are just kind of a recycling of a Cloverfield monster.
Yeah, and I mean, even with the new Godzilla we saw in 2014, Kind of just big gray masses.
Yeah, the Mutos.
Yeah, that don't do a lot besides click and maybe have red eyes. So, not a whole lot of variation. And while that may, I guess, aesthetically make sense to what's being shown on screen, it's not dynamic. It doesn't jump out at you necessarily. So, it's definitely nice to have that color palette.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a movie that's colorful, but not too colorful, and it's
Mhm.
dark, but the right kind of dark.
Exactly.
And also, again, with the kaijus and that, I gotta say my favorite kaiju is, I keep forgetting the kaiju's name, but it's the one with like they can spit like this acid, and it's kind of like reptilian. It's got its own unique tail, and then on top of that, it's revealed that it has wings.
Yeah, the pterodactyl one. That is a great one. I
Yeah.
feel like either that or the Category 5 is my favorite.
Oh, the big, really big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like both of those a lot too. And yeah, I mean, the crab one was probably the lamest of them.
I agree. Mr. Krabs
Yeah,
getting that KO punch.
becoming Red Lobster meals.
Arrgh! Took me millionth dollar.
Yeah, I mean, also I like how one of the kaiju in the movie, if you look at the making of the Pacific Rim book, one of them is named Karloff, after the,
Oh!
which is obvious reference to the actor who played
Karloff.
some of the Universal monster characters
That's right.
from the past.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Also, in the beginning of the film, I noticed a trope in that to see the Golden Gate Bridge attacked. Like, it's the first thing that gets attacked in the movie. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I guess that's what they get for having those pride parades.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that. Thinking about that again, that was a great opening scene too, and a great looking kaiju. Great way to start things off.
Yeah, earlier when I was rehearsing my lines, I accidentally referred to the kaiju as Caillou. Yeah.
Kaiju.
Yeah, another monster I wouldn't mind being stomped.
I let's see it, boys. Godzilla versus King Ghidorah and Caillou at monster size. Like instead of King Kong, it's like Caillou the size of King Kong.
You'd just be whining and complaining.
Yeah. Each day I learn some more from Caillou, Caillou.
I think, what about better yet, Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Clifford the Big Red Dog is confirmed a kaiju. Like that, there is no doubt.
I would love to see that. Oh, remember those books? I remember it now. When I was a kid, do you remember those books called like Catzilla or Dogzilla and
Yeah.
Cat Kong?
I do.
Yeah, it's funny. I just remember those now. I can't believe that was dormant, like beneath the sands of time.
It's been a while, and the imagery was so weird in those books.
It's like Photoshop stuff
Yeah.
that you would see, which makes it kind of surreal, but purposely funny.
Yeah.
They should bring those back.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Better than the annoying orange.
As if there was a doubt. Anything is better than the annoying orange.
Yeah.
A compilation of roadkill
Yeah.
still images would be better.
Yeah. All right. So, but also, let's talk about the characters for the moment.
For
But
sure.
what did you think of the main leads in the movie, played by Charlie Hunnam and Rinko Kinkuchi?
I overall liked them. I think they had pretty decent chemistry. I know some people's complaint is that, well, the Chinese female lead, or excuse me, Japanese female lead. I keep confusing because of Hong Kong. And,
I get you.
But in any case, the Japanese female lead, lots of people felt that, well, she was shoehorned in there because of the growing Asian market, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but in this one, it kind of at least made sense. There have been other films where it's clearly just shoehorned in,
Mm-hmm.
but like this one just it makes sense because of the context. I don't want to spoil it for the few like 13 people who haven't seen it yet, but the for the context of the character and how she gets involved with the whole program and her association with Marshall is it makes sense for the context, which is important. And I guess the only thing is Charlie's character. Is it Raleigh? His name. He he does come across, I don't know, almost goofy at points to me, like over the top, which isn't the best. But overall, I like Marshall, the chemistry between Raleigh and Mako, and just in general, that aesthetic was very potent and worked well. Also, the scientists were good and some good comic relief.
Yeah, we'll get to them.
But yeah, overall, I would say that those two scientists and the three characters I named were the best part of it overall in terms of the human actors.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of disagree with your thoughts on Charlie Hunnam's character. I felt like he was kind of like trying to be, the main character who is not so sure what he wants to do with himself ever since that, tragic event where he lost his brother. And also the whole dynamic between him and the other actress in the movie, it was kind of like, in a way, kind of a yin and yang in a way. If you look at their hair color, like one's blonde, which represents the white one, and the white, and the one dark haired one is supposed to represent like the black part. I'm trying to remember which one is the yang, which one's called yang, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think the dark was yang, maybe. But...
Yeah, in a way, and they're wearing black in their pilot suits in a way to kind of represents how they're both in mourning because they both have tragic backstories of loss.
That's a very good observation.
Yeah, and I love how I read in that Guillermo del Toro, in his book and also in the making of the Pacific Rim book as well, they also described how, I guess, the imagery where it's like, the little girl holding the red shoe to kind of show how, her heart's broken during her, like, family died during that one attack when she was a kid. And yeah, I mean, I do think that in a way they obviously were kind of into each other. And I felt like, I don't want to blame this movie, but I felt like this is the kind of movie that may have started a not so good trend in recent years where we have these two characters that are obviously into each other and they just hug. No kiss whatsoever. Like we saw this in Kong Skull Island and Rogue One. And I just remember back to the days in Van Helsing where not only did even the sidekick character Carl, who's like a friar, not only did he kiss the girl, they had sex. Like, I'm not kidding. Just watch the movie again. Yeah, he got laid, folks. But nowadays, he'd be like, oh, just got a hug.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I've seen some things where that's tastefully done. But, yeah, I guess it may have felt a little weird as there wasn't that payoff quite in the end. But, I mean, I literally pointed out the jets were in a heart formation flying over.
Well, helicopters,
actually. Okay. Like... not remotely subtle, just in case you had any doubts.
But the end, when they're like, you can kind of argue that when they're kind of like touching heads at the end, it kind of shows how they're really connected mentally. Which I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's not as lame as the other movies I compared it to.
Talking about the whole yin-yang aspect, it's also true in that she was very orderly and conservative in her demeanor in terms of her being proper and obeying Marshall, and he was very much the antithesis of that. He was just free range, and she even critiqued him on that. So the fact that they were two opposites that still came together was a very obvious opposites attract type of...
like that Paula Abdul song?
Right.
With that animated cat that no one remembers?
That too, yes. But, yeah, I think that's a especially good observation in terms of their aesthetic. And that wasn't necessarily true of the other pilots, which was interesting. It made them kind of stand out in that regard.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the thing is, speaking of chemistry, I really like Charlie Day's character in this movie, how he's kind of like very unorthodox, kind of like all over the place and wants to get his hands dirty, while the other scientist, played by Bern Gorman, in that he's all facts and statistics and other stuff, and I like their kind of chemistry within the movie.
I will just say, addressing your assessment of Raleigh in the beginning there, I can see what you're getting at in terms of his overcoming his deficiency after his brother passed away. But the thing is, I felt that while that was present, he also kind of walked around with this cocky swagger and stuff. And that made sense for whatever the Australian kid who was, a douchebag who needed to get his ass kicked to learn a lesson. But
Yeah.
with Raleigh, it really, like, it made sense in the beginning, but it felt like he shouldn't have been that way throughout the whole thing, and he was.
Old
So,
habits die hard.
Yeah, I guess so. So, I mean, again, that's kind of a nitpicky gripe. That may be something for some critic that's like, oh, drag it down a whole grade. But no, I mean, for me, it's just a taste thing. It still worked. It was just something about his performance. So,
Yeah. I thought it was interesting with Idris Elba was in this movie. I mean, I feel like it's kind of weird his name in the movie called Stacker Penscott. I mean, what kind of name is Stacker anyway?
I don't know.
Did his like parents named after the machine that they humped over on the arcade, like Stacker?
Did they even name him that? I guess it was Colonel Stacker at some point. But, like, I mean, they called him Colonel Marshall and other things. So
Yeah, I remember at one point I said, "We are Marshall."
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so also we have Ron Perlman in the movie as well.
Are you
As-
funning me, son?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it made sense because he was typecast in the film because he played Hellboy in the Hellboy movies by Guillermo del Toro and that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was interesting in the film. Very, what's it called? Very not exotic, like kind of extravagant with all the bling he had on.
Almost flamboyant in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting and such. But anyway, I mean, speaking of the characters, about the other pilots in the movie, I like how the Jaegers in this movie have their own like interesting design. Like Gypsy Danger kind of supposed to represent like a cowboy in a way, and Striker Rika is kind of like a cocky athletic jock, and Cherno Alpha is like a big angry Russian as described as in the book, and Crimson Typhoon is kind of like very martial arts kind of Shaolin monk in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, the fight scenes for them were good and such. And I mean, there was one, the actress who played one of the Jaeger pilots, because then inside it kind of looked kind of steampunk in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and played by Heather Durkison and that. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, by the way, Steven, I would smash, but yeah. But also,
I was saying they looked like the Borg when they put the visor on to see.
who's the Borg?
It's from Star Trek. Some people
okay.
may know what I'm talking about, but just the whole green suit with the green visor and a red glowing eye. That was so, man, that's Star Trek the Borg. And their pale skin was also like the Borg, too. So.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about the action scenes in this movie.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They are so awesome. I just love how they pretty much show, like, kind of like if you were a kid in that, like when they were showing the, like in the Dock Harbor area where they're grabbing and fighting all these places and such. And also that, Gypsy Danger grabs these kind of containers or like, if you know what I'm talking about, and like smashes
like
it.
Containers.
Yeah, those containers, and he smashes it in the face of Leatherback, who's the
fat one?
yeah, the big one, who's like a gorilla.
Uh-huh.
And if you look closely, you can see all like the junk, like the TVs and couches and stuff flying off, and it just showed the attention and detail, which I did like. And also, you can kind of compare and contrast how huge these things are.
Mm-hmm.
And then also going through like all the, like the destruction stuff, like I just love it when he like drags a giant ship and smashes it in the face of one of the kaijus.
That was great.
And on top of that, I just love how it completely kept catching you off guard. Like, okay, it seems like it's over with, but no, it can fly now. I'm like, wow, another thing I didn't expect. Awesome. And such. And yeah, again, this is how you make good action. It can be fun, but again, the character gets injured. There's a sense that they could lose and die. Something that the Fast and Furious movies are completely gone about.
Amen. And also, a big thing to me that I think we may have talked about in The Incredible Hulk was use of environment. So many movies where there's big tightness things, not even just Jaegers and monsters, but there are plenty of other examples where superheroes or monsters or something are around, and they don't use their environment, and it's so dumb. I mean, any organism with reptilian-based functioning brain would think to use their surroundings to their advantage. And the fact that not only did they do that in this, it was prominent, was fantastic. It really upped the sense of action and the payoff for me, and went good. This is, in the way they're handling it, despite the situation being so off the wall, it is it's realistic in the way that they're portraying the fighting, which is important. You can suspend your disbelief, but don't push it. In that regard, you have control. So
yeah, I agree. So if I had any problems with this movie, there are kind of three quick ones. Okay, first of all, I felt like they could have developed the characters of Crimson Typhoon and Cherno Alpha a lot more. I understand why they didn't have really any like screen time in that, because I would have cared more about them when they died. Minor spoiler, folks. Because the thing is that if you develop your characters more and when they die, you care more about them. Something that Kong Skull Island really lacked on.
yeah,
But also, the second problem is that they were showing like various like footage of like different leaders in that in the opening credits, well, opening sequence of the movie, and just feel like that's really distracting because, I mean, I feel like it kind of takes me out of the moment because it's supposed to be a fictional movie, and when they show like real world stuff of like different leaders, it's kind of, again, distracting, but also makes it pretty dated when that certain figure is no longer a certain leader at a time. And I just feel like in that sort of case, the president or prime minister or whatever should be played by a fictional person in a way.
I guess so. I don't necessarily agree with that. I actually like the whole sense of tying it into reality to make it more realistic. I know some people don't like that, but I actually prefer when films do that. So that personally was a good thing to me. And yeah, I completely disagree in that regard.
I guess we're not drift compatible.
Right.
On that part.
I do agree completely in terms of the Crimson Typhoon and
Cherno Alpha.
Cherno Alpha. They did not get enough development, and for how cool they were, they didn't get some just desserts in terms of their screen time. But a couple other gripes were, they're more nitpicky things overall, but like the sword that was used in a fight, it was way more practical to use in a bunch of fights before that, and the fact that they didn't use it was kind of gimmicky, that they're just like, oh, got this ace up my sleeve. No, that's dumb. You had it the whole time. You should have used it, and it would have been way more practical, save ammunition. But the other thing, I guess, is like the main villains turning out to be you mentioned Independence Day, kind of a similar Independence Day situation, but instead of us building robots, it's them, creating these organic monstrosities. And even in terms of how they looked when they were actually seen, it was very, very Independence Day-y. And in terms of the resolution, that wasn't necessarily... I mean, it was fine, but to me it didn't reflect as a great original ending. It was kind of just insert here, generic ending. And that wasn't the best. But overall, it was a great brawl smackdown movie that was just what a lot of us giant monster and robot fans have been looking for. And if you haven't seen it yet, you need to. I don't know how the second one is going to be, but this first one definitely is worth seeing, and it is a crime against humanity that Grown-Ups 2 and was it Despicable Me 1 or 2?
2.
That overgrossed this because the United States film-going audience is complete cancer. I hear people in my program talking about, well, you need to give people credit because they're really showing how their film tastes are evolving. Bull crap.
Complete opposite direction.
Exactly. For every example you want to give, I'll name you 2 where you are dead wrong. And thank God for Abroad in this case, because they saved the movie and are going to let us get some more. So thank you, China, for putting your chips on the table on our behalf.
Well, not just that, but the foreign market in general. But
True.
yeah, I mean that fact of that whole thing. I mean, remember there was a when I went to go see this, there was a bunch of people walked out of Grown Ups 2 when it was over with,
Mm-hmm.
and I wish I could go back in time and just question those people and get like a cameraman that interview like. So, what does it feel like to know that you watched a generically retarded Adam Sandler movie over something awesome as a Guillermo del Toro movie like Pacific Rim?
Exactly. What would their answer be? Just like, dude, well, I was like gonna see it, but like this, I guess looked like totes funny or something.
I know it's like, what makes more sense, a giant monsters versus giant robots movie by a professional director versus some washed-up hack and his buddies go on vacation at your expense?
Yes, in theaters, mind you, not directly to DVD, where that belongs, if that, or Netflix or some garbage.
Direct to the dumpsters, more
Right,
like it.
Direct to garbage disposal.
Yeah.
But it truly is incredible to me that people can still make the argument of an intelligent film going audience in the United States when there are cases like this. So,
I just hope that in the next Pacific Rim movie we see like an Adam Sandler lookalike is stomped on by a Jaeger.
I
by
hope
Jaeger,
so, and we will
or
report
eaten
on it
or,
if it
or
happens.
eaten by a kaiju.
Yes.
Yes, yes. But yeah, I mean, my third kind of problem with the movie is what I said earlier about them like not kissing at the end, where they're obviously kind of into each other. But that's that's my least big nitpick of the movie. Well, my number one was they could have developed some of the other Jaegers better, pilots at least. So, what would you give this movie, Steven?
Well, I've thought about this one for quite a while after I originally saw it, and it is a great fun movie. It is not perfect though, and for the things that weigh it down, most are nitpicky things, but there are a couple that have some substance, and they tend to be more like cookie cutter story elements or just lack of character development, but still very worth watching. Can't recommend enough that you need to see this if you're into this genre of film and you haven't given it the chance yet for some reason. But definitely worth the watch, and I feel that a about perfectly on point score from my perspective for this film is between an 86 and an 87%. It is a high B movie, and that doesn't mean B as in, oh, well, it's not an A movie, so don't go see it in the theaters. No, you still pass as a teacher if you're getting the B, and that's nothing to frown upon. It's just, it doesn't quite hit that A for a couple reasons. So
Okay. Well, personally, I think this is a great movie. It's definitely one of the best giant monster movies I've ever seen. Besides the kind of problems I have with the movie, and yeah, there could have been another big kaiju versus Jaeger fight in the movie.
for sure.
Because there's definitely a gap in time between we see one of those and then we see another one of something like that. But this is a great movie. I had a great time seeing this in theaters when I saw it in RPX with a huge screen and loud speakers and that. And it's a really fun movie. It's a crying shame that it opened at third place at the box office when it came out. And it just kind of goes to show that box office success does not equal the quality of a movie. Just saying, folks.
That is true.
So anyway, I would give Pacific Rim about 3.5 stars out of 4.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And to expand upon Tyler's point there about box office doesn't necessarily mean it's good. There are examples where the reverse is true, like that. Some films are just critically panned by hack websites like Rotten Tomatoes, but the film audience still just in general go to see it and show, yeah, this is still a good movie. I don't know what these idiots are blabbing on about.
Yeah, it's kind of like Justice League in a way, or Batman vs. Superman,
Mm-hmm.
or how it's the reverse, such as the new Star Wars movie, or It Comes at Night.
Right, exactly.
In a way, but yeah. So this is Tyler from Anchor Reviews.
And Stephen from Stephen Lawson Studios.
And we hope you enjoyed this episode of After the Credits on Anchor Reviews, and we hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.